Good morning. 3 people in the chat. Where are you from? Just having a cup of coffee. Hey, Elizabeth. Happy weekend. Did you already have your coffee or do you drink coffee? What time is it where you guys are? I think it's going on 10 o'clock here. It's early here on the West Coast. It's early on the West Coast. Thought I would go live with a cup of coffee, say hello, see who is up and home. Those in the chat, let me know where you are from. Coffee for sure, yeah. No coffee, no energy. Elizabeth, do you do Starbucks? Starbucks. We have a Starbucks in our own building. It's in the main floor, so it's so convenient. And I don't know if I really love Starbucks coffee, but it's so convenient. I find I drink it a lot. Definitely Starbucks, though we have too much good coffee here. Yeah, I know we do too. We got a lot of good coffee here in Vancouver. But because Starbucks is everywhere, it's so easy just to grab a cup of Starbucks coffee. What do you drink? Susanna, you're in the house once again. Starbucks is awesome, but I love my Keurig. Yeah, I just made this on an espresso machine. So on the weekends, I try to make my own coffee. And the beans that I think I used were Starbucks beans, but there are better beans. You know, Starbucks is great and it's convenient and it's potent. I think they have a better kick to their bean, but they're not necessarily the smoothest espresso bean. There are other places around. Delaney's, do you guys have Delaney's? I'm not sure if it's local to Vancouver. There's only a few of them, but the coffee's amazing. I don't do espresso, it makes me shake. Yeah, I like the shakes. I like a good shaken, you know? Well, not the problem, but the situation with me is that I have to go live every morning, you know, to groups of people, and you sort of have to, I like that little extra kick, just to gets me out of my head, gets me out of my introversion, gets me into the extroversion, which I need to lead people. Tyra, 7 o'clock in the evening. What? Oh yeah, you're in Europe. What country, Tyra, are you in? That's so cool. 7 p.m. It's noon. Susanna, you're in Texas, right? Are you in Texas? I always forget. Oh my God. You got to keep up with kids, so I can definitely see how coffee would be helpful. Yeah, definitely. Germany, right on. I've been to Germany. I was in Munich. I was that the only city I went to? I was going to go to Berlin. This was years ago, but there was a big rave going on at the time, and I was told it would be impossible to find a hostel. So I went to Munich instead and met some very cool people and hung out in Munich. It was awesome. Yeah, Texas. I figured, Susanna. Sorry. Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. Isn't that what they say about Texas? Everything's bigger in Texas. Susanna, you lived in Germany for a few, well, right on. That's cool. Good morning, folks. Whoever's in the chat, good morning, good morning. So what do you guys got planned for the day? What's going on? Yeah, everything's bigger in Texas. Bigger and better, or just bigger? I think I'm liking these live things. It's so easy. You just basically click live. There's no editing. There's no nothing. And it's so easy. So easy. Bigger and better. And hotter, I think. Yeah. Yeah. What's the temperature down there today? Down there today. It sounds like such a Canadian thing to say. What's the temperature down there today, Susanna? I'll tell you guys what, actually the temperature here is very cool in Vancouver, if you care to know. We're talking about the weather here. Oh gosh. In Vancouver, I will tell you it is 11 degrees. This is the current. Can you see that? It's 11 degrees and it is overcast and it's raining. It's raining. I like a little rain, you know, sometimes. I like the balance between the rain and the hotter temperatures, the warmer, brighter temperatures. We live in a rainforest, so I always laugh at the people who complain about the rain. It's like, you live in a rainforest. Why are you here if this is bothering you? But I think most people that live on the West Coast here in BC, they sort of like that temperate balance. Otherwise, why would you stay? 53 Fahrenheit here in Portland. Oh man, I so want to go to Portland. So want to go to Portland. It's sort of one of the trips that we've been talking about doing. Seattle's so convenient because if you live in Vancouver, you know, it's a quick highway drive down. But Portland's a little extra time commitment and distance-wise. So, but it is in the plans, Elizabeth. It's in the plans. Susanna says, I have a chat full of girls. Well, that's cool. What's wrong with girls? Girls are better than boys. There's a few guys that show up. A few guys. I don't think they're all gay. I have family in Canada, in Edmonton. Yeah. You know what? I've never been to Edmonton. I've been to Calgary, but I've never been to Edmonton. Portland is Seattle's hipper, younger sibling city. I've heard. I mean, I've heard it's just, yeah. So when I think of Portland, I always think of like coffee shops. I think, well, before coffee shops, I think also brew pubs, micro brew pubs for beer. And I think beer when I think Portland, and I think coffee when I think Seattle. Hello from France, Corinne Lefranc. Lefranc? We're French here. We're English and French in Canada, so most English people here in Canada actually have a little bit of a French accent when they try to use it. So they're not going to say Corinne. They're going to say Corinne. Microbreweries are big in Portland for sure. Yeah, I love beer. I'm not sure if I can say that on this live stream, but I love beer. Love beer. And so that makes Portland a natural sort of, you know, thing. Guy checking in. Twisted Hippie says, guy checking in. Yeah. See, Susanna? It's not just gals. It's guys and gals. Guys and Dolls. Have you guys seen that show, Guys and Dolls? It's a classic. Classic. I think the original show had Frank Sinatra. And a few years back, I saw a revival of Guys and Dolls in New York City on Broadway. It was amazing. How many people have been to Broadway and saw shows on Broadway in New York? New York. It's best. I think it's the best city on the planet, personally. But beer looks like pee-pee, Susanna says. Come on, Susanna. Oh, I suppose you drink wine. You're one of these sort of, you know, refined sorts. I like wine too. Wine, beer, spirits, it's, you know, I'm one of those sort of mutts of alcohol. I'm okay with pretty much anything. Twisted Hippie, where are you from? I think I knew where you were from, but I've forgotten. Can you remind us where you're from? Where are you coming from today? What city? I know you're in the States. Twisted Hippie, I believe you're in the States. I believe. Oh my God, guys. Can I just make an observation right now? Because I can see up at this, it says we've been live for 10 minutes. It says that there are 11 people in the house and there's 1 like. 12 people in the house. 1 like? Come on. Come on. Slap. Oh, there's a second like. We got 2 likes. Give us a like. It's free. It's just go boop. I'm not even sure why I'm asking for a like. Like, what does the likes mean? Oh, I just got 6 likes. That's awesome. Susanna says, I don't drink. I have maybe a handful of cocktails a year on special occasions. How come? Wales. Seriously. So Twisted Hippie, you would have one of those funny accents. You'd have one of those very cool accents. 9 likes, 11 people. That balances it out. I'm okay with that. He laughs. He laughs. What time is it in Wales right now? I suppose you're probably 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, afternoon. Susanna says liked. Thank you, Susanna. I appreciate it. I really don't know why I'm asking for likes. I've been in other live streams and people are screaming for likes, so I thought I would do the same. Just after 6 p.m. Yeah, it's just after 10 a.m. in the morning on, this is Saturday morning, broadcasting from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. You got a big evening planned, Twisted Hippie? Your Saturday's just getting started. I'm trying to figure out, guys, when the best time is to do live broadcasts, because there's a lot of people who have commented on the video once it's posted to my channel and saying, I missed it. So I don't really know what the best time is. I just sort of, I'm such an unplanned person when it comes to this YouTube thing. I just sort of do my own thing and don't really think about maximizing, any elements to the channel. So there you go. Greetings from Seattle, Chris says. Greetings back to you, my Seattle friend. Love Seattle. I love the Starbucks, the big Starbucks that you guys have there. And I'll tell you why I like it, which is so me, but they actually have a place where you can sit and drink beer. So if a coffee shop has beer on the menu, then I'm favoring it. Yeah, Vancouver's pretty sweet. I can see why people who live in Seattle would like Vancouver and vice versa. It's a nice, easy getaway, and both cities are beautiful. Seattle's amazing. Yeah, we have some cool Starbucks shops here. Yeah, they're very cool. Did anybody watch the video that was posted to John McDougall's channel where he talked to Joel Fuhrman? It was posted 2 days ago. I watched it yesterday. I thought it was amazing. Wow. Especially if you're up on that whole science research thing and the controversy between Fuhrman and the other researchers and clinicians. It's pretty amazing. Hi from Finland, says Tom. See, Susanna, we got a couple of boys in the house. Couple of boys. The boys are representing as well. Tom, what time is it in Finland? I suppose you're around 7 p.m. Enerchor says, I hate Vancouver. It's yuppie hell. Fair enough. Anacor, where are you coming from? 2007. Well, if I subtract 12, that suggests it's a little after 8 p.m. So you guys are 8 p.m. in, yeah, 8:07. Thank you for doing that. In Vancouver, well, in Canada, we tend to keep it simple. We have simple minds, so we don't do the military style. I used to live there. Anna Chor says, where are you living now? Anna Chor? Anna Chor, in rural BC. Right on. Nice. Yeah, Vancouver it's sort of got that, it's got its pleasantries, there's no question. We got the seawall, we have the natural beauty, the trees, the rainforest. But, you know, after moving here about 12 years ago, you encounter things you don't expect. To live downtown, I live right downtown, which was intentional. That was the goal, was to try to see what it was like to live downtown Vancouver. And you run into things you don't anticipate, but some things are good, some things are bad. But I like it overall. And, you know, it's an investment to move somewhere, so you try to stick it out. And nothing is ever going to be what you expect. So you land and then you just sort of see what comes of it, right? You learn from it. But rural life, I don't know if I could live a rural lifestyle. I'm just not really sure. I like a lot of energy. I live in a high rise downtown, so it's easy if I feel like I need a little energy. I just look out my window and just look at the city, hear the city. Does UBC still do animal testing? I suppose they do, within a set of ethical standards. I think when it comes to animal testing, UBC would probably follow a very similar policy to most universities in North America and Western Europe, I would suppose. You want to get into a discussion on animal testing? I'm in a city about 2 hours north of Toronto. Grew up in a small town in Ontario, 5,000 people, Lisa says. Lisa, what city are you from in Ontario? You are north of Toronto. I love Toronto, by the way. I try to get there each summer. I'm probably not going to do much traveling this summer. I'm actually going to spend some time on my balcony doing some balcony gardening, which Waterloo, right on. Yeah, I'm a teacher and I teach high school math, and a lot of my students are pretty good at math. Not all of them, but many of them are. I teach the upper level math, and those students really look at Waterloo as a good school, Waterloo University. So they offer a lot of really good programs like in engineering, math, that sort of thing. And a lot of the kids that I teach really are, you know, they excel in math and they do really well in it. Thank you for sharing, Lisa. I appreciate that very much. I'm a big city girl, but sometimes it's nice to get away to a smaller town where people actually pass by you and smile. I know, it's funny, I live in a big city, but I'm a small town person. I like eye contact. I'm not really that shy. I like to say hello. So if I'm walking along the seawall in downtown Vancouver, it's pretty common for me. I don't know. I seem to always have like this perma smile on my face. So as I walk by people, I'm smiling, and it's engaging. So if you're walking towards someone, whether they know you or not, and you sort of have that smiley glow to you, you know, fueled by coffee probably, then it will elicit a response. People will sort of nod. They're reluctant to do it in a bigger city, but they will. How high are the people in PISA score there? Finland is the number 1. What's the PISA score again? I love living in little villages where I know everyone, Twisted Hippie says. Yeah, that's definitely got an advantage to it. I think when I get even older, I'll probably land in a smaller town and cash in on my little downtown property here. But for now, I am enjoying the downtown lifestyle. I like it. I like it a lot. Is anybody drinking coffee right now? Put a number 1 if you're drinking coffee. Put a number 1 in the chat if you are drinking coffee right now. Probably not too many because a lot of you are from Europe and it's 6 or 7 at night. And who drinks coffee at 6 or 7 at night? Average score of math, science, and reading. Oh, yeah. I know what you mean now. I don't think Canada ranks super high, I have to say, Tom. But I will tell you this, that when it comes to the best math students in Vancouver, I probably see a big percentage of them because they flock to my high school to do the IB program. And I've got kids who land in pretty amazing universities, the top universities in the world. I need to make my coffee. I have Starbucks Keurig pots. Yeah, my parents have those, Susanna, when I visit, and it's so convenient. But there's something about taking beans, putting them into a coffee grinder, grinding it up, setting it all up. I like the art of it. The Keurig lacks art. And I like that artistic play with the espresso maker. Herbal tea. Oh my gosh, Twisted Hippie. It's the evening on Saturday and you have herbal tea? Herbal tea? Art, arista, art. It's like art, right? I grind my own coffee, Tom says. Yeah, grind, it's fine. It's just, it feels like you're making something. You're using your hands. You're sort of being gentle, and you're you're being mindful of all the little grains so as they don't drop into the coffee. I don't know. I like that stuff. It's kind of fun. It's nice to be around coffee-loving vegans. I know. Susanna, there are so many people on, especially, you know what I think the problem is that we all, for those of you that are in the chat right now, you probably like YouTube, right? You're YouTube people. I'm a YouTube person who just happens to post, big deal. And so we watch a lot of YouTube, and a lot of the YouTubers that we watch are pretty idealistic. And as we're learning, fleeting. And when I say fleeting, they're coming and they're going. So as not to get too intense on you guys today, but I did a little bit of research for the potential of going live, and the number of people who are leaving the vegan YouTube arena are many, but they tend to be young girls. Do you notice that? A lot of young girls come and go, and I don't want to beat up on young girls, but I don't think it's representative. And I said this before, and Susanna, I know you'll disagree with me. You said this in a live chat not that long ago, but I looked it up. I like to sort of, have a few things that I can talk about if I'm on chat. And according to a recent poll, there is a 600% increase in people identifying as vegan in the United States. That's over the last 3 years. 600% increase. So I don't know if YouTube is representative of what's really happening in the vegan community, the broader international vegan community. Tom says, I'm a guy close to your age, LOL. Right on. It's why we need people like you around, Planetes. I don't think everybody would agree with that statement, but I appreciate it all to hell, as you know, Twisted Hippie. I know 0 vegans, Susanna says. I don't know many myself. Oh, I know you, Susanna. That's why I come to this little place on the internet. This is my connection. I mean, I'm coupled, and my other half is not vegan, and we coexist. Most of my friends are not vegan. I'm 200 pounds and lean and worked out for a while. How do I make sure I don't lose my mass if I switch to veganism? Michael Shaw, what a good question. Let me just talk about that for a moment. I watched John Venus's mukbang. He did a mukbang, which is, I don't know if you guys are subscribed to his channel, but he posted one within the last 20 hours or so. He's a pretty big, meaty guy, and I'm always curious to know how people retain their mass. Big bodybuilders retain their mass when they're eating, you know, a nutritarian diet or a plant-based diet. I have to say to you, and I'm going to be really honest, I'm not here to, you know, say veganism is for everyone. If your goal is to try to retain that mass, Michael Shaw, then I can't promise you that you will. I don't know if anybody else can comment on that, but I know, because you wouldn't know it by looking at me, but I do lift weights. I have for a long time, and I do yoga, and I've always been on the lean side, but there have been times when I've been bigger, like muscular wise, and that's never been on a vegan diet. I find on a vegan diet, my aggression level lowers, everything moderates. It feels calmer inside my cells, you know? And for weightlifting, you want that daily aggression, right? Like when you're heading to the gym, you want to have it in your head, I'm going to rip the shit out of that place. And when you eat a vegan diet, I don't know, it seems to moderate that. Elizabeth says, I think you have to eat enough volume to maintain muscle gains and high protein vegan gains. I agree, Elizabeth. The only downside would be, and I want to make sure Michael gets a good response here, is that when you eat a lot of fibrous foods, you just become Santa Claus in the belly. And a lot of vegans struggle with that. In fact, I think that's my theory as to why a lot of these young girls have left veganism. It's very hard to keep your girlish figure. Unless you're moderating the volume you eat. And that's not talked about on YouTube. The message on YouTube is eat unlimited amounts of food and never gain a pound. And that's, quite frankly, in my opinion, just not correct. Michael Shaw says, thanks for all the input. Everyone appreciated. Yeah, just, I mean, be honest, right? Is veganism a bodybuilder diet? I could be. I'm not an authority on this. I'm just telling you my own situation. What you eat on a vegan diet is definitely going to be a factor. Michael, if you are thinking of a vegan diet, my best advice would probably be to focus on foods that are lower on the carbs. Now, all plant diets are going to be higher carb-wise. It's very hard to cut out the carbs. But there are certain diets that are higher in carbohydrate. This idea that you can't gain fat on a carbohydrate diet is bull poo-poo. I think it depends on your body too. Endomorph, ecto, meso. Yeah, it probably does, Elizabeth, although I have a tendency to lose weight. Thankfully, you know, and I'm not, that's not being braggadocious, but I do tend to lose weight easily if I just stop eating certain things. And I have to say that when I went vegan, the ability to do that was a little less because it's so easy to eat carbs. And the message has been on YouTube, especially, eat lots of carbohydrates, eat lots of carbohydrates. My personal experience is that the carbohydrate foods are a little more addictive. So when you eat rice, you want to eat more rice. And when you eat potatoes, you want to eat more potatoes. What you can do to curb that, this is my own personal opinion, I'm not a nutritionist, is just to move into like the tempeh tofu. And I know tofu has a lot of controversy around it, but I just think that tofu can be, it satiates me. It's like having chicken on my plate. You feel fuller. And people often say they don't feel full enough on a vegan diet. Plus they feel bloated. So when you feel bloated and you're not full, that's a weird place to be, right? So you have to play with the vegan diet to make it work for yourself. Elizabeth says, or the slow burning carbs like brown or sweet potatoes. Yes, although Elizabeth, I will say they do fill your belly, right? So, and maybe it's just me. I've heard other people report the same thing, that on a vegan diet, you can get a little bit of a belly. And it's because you're carrying so many extra, so much more volume of food, and that carbohydrate bonds with probably 2 or 3 times the amount of water, and you can feel it around your waist. If you're eating sort of decent volumes of food, then you may notice that in the morning that subsides. But many people report going to bed with a little bit of a Buddha belly. And if that bothers you, you know, it's something that you're going to have to work on. I think eating a meat-based diet, you may feel a lot more cut, you know, that cut. You may feel more comfortable around the midsection, but I'm not sure if that's the healthiest situation. You know, people say, oh, I get gas on a vegan diet. Well, you're probably supposed to have a little bit of gas. You know, I think that's probably a healthier, if you never have any sensations in your gut, I'm not sure if that's the healthiest situation. Nutrition study is definitely fascinating. Darcy says, I appreciate you talking about the struggles of the vegan diet. I had so many issues when I first switched, and a lot of vegan YouTubers will say how it fixed everything. Yeah, it's not, look, there's no perfect diet, but the emphasis, at least on my channel, is veganism isn't a diet. So you first go vegan, and then you try to figure out how you're going to eat. It's a diet of compassion. It's a diet of mindfully an ahimsa, or less violence. Yes, it is. Live the dream, says back at Elizabeth. I had to experiment a lot with my diet. Yeah, and I think everybody does. I mean, there's this myth out there that only vegans are experimenting with their diet. Everybody's experimented with my diet before I went vegan. And you just change things up and you see how it goes. So there is no perfect diet. Veganism is not a perfect diet. And I think if you're looking for a model type body, whether that be muscular for a guy or super skinny for a girl with a really, you know, narrow waist, veganism could elude you. Enerchor says, hey guys, if you have burdock in your yard, eat that stuff. Yeah, if you go into some of these stores that sell herbs, often burdock or burdock root, I've heard, is healthy, but I didn't know burdock itself was. I suppose you'd have to remove all those little extra tentacles and then maybe eat the meat on the inside. Clarify if you want to. But yeah, do you guys know who Banana Blondie is? Banana Blondie. I'll link her channel in the description box below when this video goes live. Well, it's live right now, but when I post it to my channel. But anyway, she did a video. She put it out 2 months ago. It got 90% support from her viewers, and the title is "I'm no longer vegan." I'm no longer vegan, and it was totally a prank, right? She is vegan, but she makes fun of a lot of these videos that have been put out by bigger and smaller channels stating that they're no longer vegan. People like Stella Ray, and you guys know Tim. But anyway, it's sort of it's funny. You got to watch it. Check out Banana Blondie 108. Banana Blondie 108. I think that's the name of her channel. And you'll laugh. It's really funny. But there's been a lot of people who have in recent months decided they no longer want to be vegan. Ravana English. I never really followed her, but she is really big. She gets millions of views every month. And she's been on the platform. I watched her latest, I watched the video where she said that she's no longer vegan. And I have to tell you guys, when people report on their channels that they're no longer vegan, those videos often get lower support. So like Stella Ray got a 40% response on her, am I still vegan? And she discusses. 40% is low, right? Stella Ray is pretty popular. But Ravana got 17%. And when you read the comments of her supporters in response to her admitting that she's no longer vegan, whoa, it's not good. Myself, 3.5 years vegan with not a lot of fake products, a lot of whole food, still bloated. Yeah. Sometimes it sucks if you fear some yoga poses because you're afraid of farting. Yeah. So it sounds like you're also a yogi. Michael Shaw, I don't think the vegan movement is good for veganism. That's got to be a joke. Or actually, no, I don't think it is a joke. I actually agree with you. I think some of the stunts that are performed by well-intentioned people in the name of reducing animal suffering is not always the best choices for animals, in my opinion. Prebiotic could work, yeah. But I think you just, no, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say. Yes, I will say. I think when you're eating a vegan diet, like any other diet, you do want to think about the volume of food that you're eating. And a vegan diet or a plant-based diet, how it sits in your body feels different than how animal foods sit in your body. So you may find that you need to eat a little less. You may feel like you have to stop sooner than when you were eating animal foods, even though your brain says continue to eat. The types of foods that I eat have different signaling in my brain. I find if I eat a higher fat diet, then I feel satiated sooner and that I don't think about food as long. When I used to eat meat, if I ate, I didn't want to eat for 5 or 6 or 7 hours. I was just really full. On a plant-based diet, sometimes you can eat and still feel full, or still feel hungry. And that's one of the weird brain messaging issues with the vegan diet. Vegan Gains is funny, in my opinion, Liv says. He's intense, but I've come to really appreciate him. Of course, of course. As you guys probably know, Vegan Gains probably doesn't think very much of me. But I've always been a fan of Vegan Gains. I've never taken this very seriously. You guys probably know this is not my job. Most people who are on YouTube are here. This is at least one source of income for them. It's never been for me. I like the artistic and opinionated side of YouTube. I like what I've always loved about YouTube is this. It's the ability for anybody who owns a camera and a computer to broadcast their opinions, their views, and I love that about YouTube. I think that's amazing. I've just never taken it that seriously. Old YouTube was never serious. It was just, people were just goofy. And it wasn't as much about money, although there were people that were starting to make money. And the monetization on YouTube, it has evolved over time. It always hasn't been about ads on your videos. There's other ways to monetize. Someone like Richard is monetized. That's a big part of his income, right? Is this platform. For me, it never has been. So I just sometimes get inspired to make a video about a topic, and they're often very random topics. And then I get off on something else. So recently, over the past 3 months, I've been very busy studying yoga in more depth. And I've started teaching yoga, and I love it. I think it's amazing. And so YouTube is one of my hobbies, but it's not, you know, it's great, but it's not my daily. And I don't think it's healthy. I don't see YouTube as a healthy endeavor for most people, because it is, I mean, look, I'm sitting in my living room and I know I'm connecting to people, but I'm sitting in my living room on my couch. I'm sedentary. And then often when people produce, the first part is to film, and then the next part is to edit. And the edit process can take a long time. And so you're sitting on your ass, you're not moving your body, and it's not the healthiest preoccupation, in my opinion, but it's fun. I mean, cutting up video is awesome. It's total fun. And I think it's fun as a hobby, but you have to place it in a bigger life, I think. Yeah, so Twisted Hippie, yeah, do a garden video. I'm planning to do that myself this summer. I'm gonna do a balcony gardening video, and I'll share that with you guys. Just reading back. Protein and fat take longer to digest. It's why you feel fuller. Yeah. I like to, lately what I've been doing in my diet is I'll take a bed of greens in a big bowl. Vegans often eat from big bowls. And then I put some tofu and I'll just season it with some soy sauce. And then I'll put some avocado, seeds, nuts, some cooked vegetables, and that will be my meal. And I find it quite filling. My Senf says, yes, show your yoga practice too. Yeah, I probably will. I made some videos where I have included some of my practice, but I actually do Ashtanga yoga. I don't know if you guys know what Ashtanga yoga is, but it's a deeper practice. It's a daily practice, and I go to a shala. So it's not called a yoga studio. It's called a shala. And in a Ashtanga shala, there's no music. It's quiet. It's focused on breath. And you just set up your mat and you begin to practice. And you follow a set sequence. So it's not like a fun, peppy fitness class. You do a primary series, and then if you've been doing Ashtanga for a number of years, you might move into the intermediate series. And there's a number of sequences. These are set sequences. You do them over and over. And there's always 2 or 3 teachers in there who just go around and they adjust your posture and assist you. Liv says, yep, that's a tough one. Back to Anichor. Yeah, so you just have to play with your diet, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody watch the video recently that was put out by, it was put out 2 days ago, and it was on Dr. McDougall's YouTube channel, and he interviewed Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Did anybody see that? Put a 1 in the comments if you saw that video. Lincoln Clay says, do you like tennis? I love watching tennis, but I don't play tennis. I used to play just for fun when I was a young laddie. But no, I don't play tennis, but I love tennis. I love professional tennis. I used to really love the old Sampras days and Agassi days. So I go way back, Monticello days, all those people. Twisted Hippie says, no, I saw it come up in my suggestions. Twisted Hippie, if you're up on all of that, you should watch that video, because there's a little bit of, I don't know, it's a vegan YouTube gem. You need to watch it. You really do, because the interaction between John McDougall and Joel Fuhrman in that video, I think, says it all. If you like reality TV and you like YouTube, you will watch that video, right? It's not on in the back. You'll get yourself a cup of coffee or a beer or a glass of wine or a cocktail, Susanna, and you will watch that video. You'll watch the expressions. You'll listen to the voice intonation, and it says everything. It says everything. You got to check it out. You'll be bored for the first 5 or 10, but just keep in mind these two people. And I know some people don't like me talking about the gossip, but I don't see it as gossip. I see it as timely. This is in the news. It's in the vegan YouTube demi-monde, as Isel would say. And I think it's important that we talk about it and share our ideas. Of course, I want to preface by saying I like all these guys. They're all leaders. They're all giants in the YouTube vegan world, nutrition science. But they really split hairs. You know that. These doctors who have diet plans that help people, they split hairs. The hairs are nuts. Should you eat nuts or shouldn't you eat nuts? Now, it goes a bit beyond that. Okay, so it's not just about nuts. So when you watch these two interact on this video, don't think it's about nuts and seeds. It's not about nuts and seeds. It's about how they conduct themselves and talk about each other. And it's also, there's a research dive there too. A lot of people don't seem to care about the research element of it, but that's a different game, right? The science, the academic integrity element, there is an academic integrity element to that story. And I've talked about it in my last video, you guys can check that out. But if you talk about strictly their diet plans, the diet plans seem to be largely distinguished by whether one eats nuts and seeds. And they make big differentiation between that. But John McDougall, you know, he's a gentleman. And the way he conducts that interview, I think, is, you know, first class. He comes from an older generation. He's okay to get into the arena. There have been hard feelings between both him and Joel Fuhrman, and he's honest about that when he talks to Joel in the video. But he's kind-hearted. He's a kind-hearted man. He's not there to diminish anybody. But he's honest. He says it like it is, and I appreciate that a lot. I like that. And there's an element of transparency, which I think all vegans should demand. If you're following a plant-based diet, you want the facts. You don't want some story being told that is going to be, you know, discovered as false. And that doesn't do the vegan cause any good. Got 19 people in the house. How many people here are vegan? Put a 1 in the chat if you are vegan. If you're full-on vegan, put a 1 in the chat. Let us know if you're vegan. Also, we got 14 likes and 19 people. If you haven't liked this video, give it a like. I'm not sure why I'm asking for a like, but give it a like. That's what people often ask when they are conducting a live stream. Oh, I got an extra like. Right on. Love those likes. Julia is 98% vegan. Right on. I'm going to sound really controversial here, Julia, and no disrespect. Veganism, what you'll discover with vegans, and there's a range of people, right? But many vegans will say that vegan is 100% or it's not vegan, right? It's plant-based. I don't know where you guys stand with that. Personally, I think someone who's making an effort to eat less animal foods, consume less animal products, and is at that 98th percentile, if in your mind you're thinking of reduction of suffering, I think those are vegan steps. Those are vegan actions, right? So it's really hard to say one is 100% vegan. Lots of vegans. Lots of vegans. JJ, are you back to eating meat? Asks. I'm not sure who you're asking that to. If you're asking that to me, absolutely not. Did you talk about the problematic thinking of not consuming oils in veganism? Tom asks. I haven't talked a lot about the oil issue. I think a lot of people who are vegan will probably be well informed of the studies and the diet plan advocated by Caldwell Esselstyn, who is a no oil kind of guy. So are many of the others. I think that T. Colin Campbell is about whole food, plant-based. Oil is not a whole food, it's a processed food. My personal philosophy is that if you're every evening frying something up with oil, that's probably a long-term issue. But if you occasionally have oil in your diet, you want something special, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if you don't have a heart condition. So if you know your health status, then I suppose that's okay. I don't like to demonize foods. I think that happens, that plays out a lot in YouTube, that this food is awful and this food is food. And you make food choices. So if I choose to eat potato chips, I'm not going to eat them and feel guilty about it. That's self-suffering. It doesn't make sense. If you're going to have some potato chips, have some potato chips. Don't eat potato chips every day. That's all. That's all, right? Some people are super, super strict with their diet, and they have nevers. I never do this, I never do that. You can do that. And some people can sustain it. Most people cannot sustain that. So on my channel, I've never been about, it has to be this, it has to be that, because there are people who have visited my channel who have said it has inspired them to move closer to what they view as a vegan diet. I think that's amazing, right? I mean, that's amazing. And I don't even know if that's ever been my intention. I'm not even sure if any of my videos have ever had any intention. They've always been just a little bit of play. So I've always tried to keep an open mind, understanding that a lot of people who come on these videos are not vegan. They're seeking information. They're wanting to know how they can adjust their diets to improve. They're interested in knowing what people's individual testimonials are. So I really try to stay soft when it comes to non-animal foods. If you eat tofu, you eat tofu. If you drink oil. If you put oil on your food, you put oil on your food. And I just don't think that those foods are things you want to eat every meal. I think that could lead to an issue. Get your blood work done occasionally. I think if you're on a vegan diet, I actually have an order to get my blood work done soon, and I'll share that in an upcoming video. Looking at my B12, looking at my vitamin D, my calcium, my protein, my lipids, all that stuff. And I'll share that with you guys. So get your blood work done, especially if you have been on a vegan diet for a couple of years. I think even if you go into a regular medical doctor and explain that you've been exploring with this vegan diet, they'll be supportive in ordering you some tests. And if you're in a socialized medicine country like Canada and most of Western Europe, it'll be a free test. You don't have to worry about that. But if you're not, I think it's worth a couple of $100 to just look into that, right? You're making a pretty major adjustment in your eating habits. And if you're an older gal or guy like me, you got to make sure you know what's going on. A little bit of hemp and canola oil cold pressed with salad is probably good for you. Could be. Twisted Hippie, I don't put oil on anything. Although I saw in IGA across the street that they have the Beyond Meat Burger. And I've had it twice. I believe twice. Maybe only once. Maybe only once. At least once. Once or twice. And I had it in a restaurant, loved it. But I would like to cook it at home. I've never cooked it at home, the Beyond Meat Burger. And in that case, I probably would put a little bit of oil in the pan to do it, but I'm not going to have Beyond Meat burgers all of the time. So if you're having it occasionally as a treat, a vegan treat, even vegans deserve treats. Treat yourself, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that's a big deal. Lincoln Clay says, I eat a lot of olive oil and I love it. Julia says there may be products that are not 100% vegan. We don't know, so nobody can be 100%. It's not only about food to be vegan. I would probably say that veganism isn't, look, I once, by mistake, ate bacon. I ordered the salad from Whole Foods. The salad was in a bowl next to another salad that had bacon in it. And I get home and I take a big mouthful and chew it on something chewy, swallow it, and I'm like, yeah, that was bacon. Does that make me not vegan? Of course not. It's intention. What are your intentions? If your intentions are to reduce suffering of animals, that means you're probably not going to eat meat. That probably means you're not going to continue to drink milk and probably not buy leather. Probably, these are things that you're probably going to do. Your behavior is going to alter over time. So veganism is heavily associated with yoga and Hinduism as well. It's in the ahimsa, the reduction of suffering, the suffering of animals, the suffering of self. And so if your goal is to reduce suffering in the world, and many people who come to the mat who are yogis, regular yogis, that often blossoms into veganism. It's very hard to be honest on your mat and really intentionally going inside, like, trying to find the real self, your true self, and continue to eat animals, especially with the knowledge of factory farming. It often starts there. But no judgment to people that are in the chat who eat meat. If you eat meat, then that has to rest in your own principles and belief systems. In my belief system, I don't think it's kind-hearted. I don't think it's good to eat animals. We don't need to eat animals. I've been vegan for, I believe, almost 7 years now. Feel great. I feel wonderful. I feel that ruins me. What about Bob? I feel great. I feel wonderful. But anyway, I feel like I've got infinite energy, and so if it's not broken, I'm keeping it just the way it is. Cooking with oil isn't great. Also high omega-6, Twisted Hippie says. Yeah, that's one of the issues, especially with your omega balance. So if you want to try to increase your omega-3s, one way is to just lower your 6s. So it's really a balance, right? You want to have a good balance between the 6s and the 3s. Says a guy who doesn't have any background in nutritional science, but I'm just telling you what I read. Corinne says, I don't have rules. I just don't eat animals, and I drink soy milk. Right? Why does it have to be so goddamn confusing? We can split hairs on the diet, but veganism is simple. You just don't eat animals, ladies and gentlemen, and you don't wear animals. That's all. And those are pretty easy things to work into. The diet will take months and years, but you got the time. Especially with your extra years of living on a vegan diet, what are you going to do with your extra years on your vegan diet? You do know that vegans live on average longer than meat eaters. I did my research. Now, again, coming from a position of ahimsa, or reduction of suffering, that's not the motivation of veganism. For most vegans, I will tell you, veganism is about just reducing suffering. But, we'll take the extra few years of life. Do you believe all these ex-vegan YouTubers were all sick, or were they using sickness as an excuse to quit veganism? I love that question. I love that question. Todd, did you guys read that question? Do you believe all these ex-vegans were all sick? These are the YouTubers. Or were they using sickness as an excuse to quit? This should be a video I slice. I'll get more coffee. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. In the meantime, meditate on this beautiful thing here. Meditate, my friends. Meditate. Just a second, I'm almost back. I'm coming back. Second thought, I got water instead of coffee. Now I'm doing water. Okay, so the question that was raised was, do you believe, let me get set up for this. Do you believe all these ex-vegan YouTubers were all sick, or were they using sickness as an excuse to quit? I'm not a person who can say that person is lying, this person is lying. When a person makes a claim, you have to give them the benefit of the truth, right? Assume that they're telling the truth. But when you look at the eons and eons, and I'm going to put this up, this is a list of YouTubers who have recently gone vegan, or rather left veganism. There's more. Look, guys, when I get ready to talk, I look stuff up. So and I took the time to watch their videos. So I watched them, I read some of the comments from their own subscribers, and no, I don't believe it's health. I do not believe it's health. I do have a theory. Here's an example. Do you guys know who Sean O'Malley is? Put a 1 in the chat if you know who Sean O'Malley is. Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley is an MMA fighter, and he went vegan for 6 months. So he says. Lincoln says, Lincoln and Elizabeth. No, Lois, not him. You're thinking of Timothy. You're thinking of Tim. I'm mentioning Sean O'Malley because he is an MMA fighter who claimed to have gone vegan for 6 months. He didn't go vegan for 6 months. He even admitted on the Joe Rogan JRE clips that he was including eggs when he was doing this so-called vegan diet. So he wasn't on a vegan diet. And I'm going to quote, I watched this video. He says he felt as though he lost his aggression. He lost his aggression. Yeah. Curly-headed guy. Yeah. He's a fighter. And I've mentioned that before. When I went vegan, I felt like I lost some of my aggression as well. Doesn't mean that you're less of a man. It just means that probably when you're eating all of those byproducts and crap that they put in meats, not to mention the meat itself, that probably gets people a little hyped, right? I don't know the biochemistry of it, but I suppose eating meat is going to give you that little extra. And when he stopped eating meat, this is a guy who needs aggression, right? He's got to beat the hell out of his opponent. That scared him. He also said he felt less manly. Now, I don't know. I'm not sure I ever felt that manly, but and manliness is not on my list of priorities. I am who I am, right? Be yourself, people. Be yourself. But that scared him. So this is the thing about veganism. If your priority is a skinny waist, if your priority is to get into a ring and fight someone, if your priority is aesthetic, then I don't see you staying vegan for very long. It's your priorities. And that's, I think, why a lot of young people, they try it on and then they realize it's not what they thought it was going to be physically in their bodies. It feels different. When you eat a plant-based diet, it feels different. Some things feel better, some things don't feel better. And it just depends on whether or not the cons weigh out the pros for you. But again, getting back to this, veganism is not a diet, right? It's not a diet. So when someone claims that they've gone vegan, they have not gone vegan. Vegan is when you have tried a vegan diet and know fully the pros and the cons, and you're willing to live with the pros and the cons because you realize it's about reducing animal suffering. That's what it's about. Live the Dream says, appreciate the honesty. Twisted Hippie says, I feel lighter and happier. Yes, you will feel lighter. There's a physical lightness and there's an esoteric lightness. You feel lighter. You do. And I've heard so many people say that. And you literally lose 5 pounds automatically when you go vegan. And people hear that, oh, I want to go vegan. But then they notice that their body composition isn't exactly the same, and that scares them. They might notice that they have a little extra fat on their body, probably healthy fat, right? It's probably healthy. Maybe they feel like they're bloated and they're starting to fart, and that scares them, you know? Probably their whole gut is coming to life, right? It's the balance of the flora is shifting to a healthier environment. And the activity in that gut feels different. It doesn't feel the same as if you eat animal foods. You know, when your gut is completely silent and quiet, I don't think that's so healthy. Lincoln Clay says, I genuinely tried to get by on plant-based diet, but I didn't feel good at all. My strength decreased, and my friends and family kept telling me I looked pale and skinny. Todd says there are a lot of male muscular ethical vegans, some of them vegan for 10 to 15 years. Dominic Thompson is one of them. T. Trivia asks, tell us more about how it feels different. Sean O'Malley meant by losing what Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley, yeah, he wasn't vegan. He was eating eggs. That's not vegan. So if you still have eggs in your diet, you won't have that same experience of feeling lighter in your body. I don't know, I can't speak for Sean O'Malley. He can speak for himself. He already did. But there is a level of aggression, I find, that you feel in your body when you're eating a lot of animal foods. I used to eat a lot of animal foods, and it feels different in your body. You just feel more hyped. There's a hype, physical, mental hype. And it probably comes from the steroids, it comes from the hormones naturally in the food, as well as added to the food, because we do know that factory farming adds those things to their products. Those things have an effect on your mind. There's a whole chemistry between what you're eating in your gut and your brain. So you will feel lighter. And sometimes people get scared by that. It makes them, especially if you're a gym rat, it can scare people and turn people off. What did Sean O'Malley mean about losing aggression? People who fight, think about it. If you're going to get into the ring and beat the hell out of someone, or get the, kicked out of you, you need some aggression. Aggression is aggression. It's fighting aggression. It's also like when you go to the gym and you want to work out, you want to build big muscles. You're going to have to lift big, if you're like tired and you don't feel aggressive, it's very hard to pick up a 50-pound weight and, work with it. So aggression in that sense. Lincoln says, when I added eggs back into my diet, I instantly felt better. So that at this point, I'm fully convinced that eating high amounts of cholesterol is beneficial for some people, especially for athletes. Lincoln, I will disagree with you in that regard. I don't think people should be intentionally increasing their cholesterol levels. One thing that's not controversial among most medical doctors, I'm not talking about vegan doctors, is that your cholesterol serum, if you have high cholesterol in your blood, that is correlated with coronary heart disease. I trust the doctors. I'm not one, but I do trust consensus, and I think that's general consensus. So be careful with your heart, please. Be careful. I say that with love. Make your own decisions, and if you think I'm full of shit, it's okay. So being vegan is also about the environment. Destroying nature leads to harming animals, so it's not vegan. Julia, veganism is not about the environment, unless you can link it back to animal suffering. So veganism, that's owned by animals. Animals have the right to their own labeling until we come to a day where we are completely and utterly, grouped together in that regard. This idea of bringing all of the social justice causes together. The animals get their own category because they deserve it, because there's a lot more that can be done to help animals. So I try to be really careful when I use the vegan term. I'm not talking about a diet. I'm not talking about trees. I'm talking about animals. Animals, the reduction of animal suffering. That's what veganism is about. That's just the definition of it, right? Some people will expand it, and that's okay personally, but I want to make sure that there's clarification on that. But no diss, I get it. I've said those same words too, and have been corrected enough to know. And I want to make sure that the vegans get that clarified for them. I'd much rather go by personal experience than what doctors and studies say. Life's way too short, regardless of which diet you have. So I just eat what makes me feel best, which is a vegetarian diet. Right on. You have to make informed decisions for yourself. And if that means that at the end of the day, after you've done all your research and you've talked to all the people that you think you believe in, and you think that there's a place for eggs in your diet, enough said. That's true, Julia. So that's the idea of bringing it around to animals. So long as there's an animal lens, if the idea of the environment, the benefits back to the environment come back to the animals, not just the trees, the animals, then it is a vegan initiative. It's a vegan intention. Do you see what I mean? Veganism is the intention to reduce animal suffering. So if animals don't show up in that line of thinking, it's not really veganism. It's environmentalism. What's wrong with that, right? There is this notion of intersectionality, which sometimes veganism loses its potency, its focus of attention. And I love that idea of bringing everything together in one umbrella. Careful with that term. But veganism is about animals. I have multiple videos on cognitive bias and why we should trust science. I agree with you, Twisted Hippie. I agree with you. And this is not to slam anybody else in the chat right now, but my attitude is that if I eat something, let's suppose I'm hungry and someone gives me a nice homemade biscuit with a cup of warm tea, a little bit of homemade jam on it, maybe a little bit of butter. If I eat that, there's a chance that I will feel healthy. I will feel good. I will feel nourished. I will feel like there was nutrition in it. Especially if I think that, right? If you grow up to think that homemade biscuits are healthy, your brain, you have already a bias built in, right? So I listen to your body, but balance that with what doctors, clinicians, nutritional scientists are telling us. You got to balance it. Sometimes your body will tell you things. You know, cocaine feels good too. But we do know that cocaine probably isn't great for you. So just because those chemicals in your brain, the dopamine levels increase, it doesn't mean that the food that you're consuming to cause that chemical reaction are healthy. And we can misunderstand that. So combine those two together, please. You only get one shot at this. You only have one heart. So take care of your heart. Corinne says, farm animals suffer so much that I do not understand why people eat so much animal foods. It's cruel. That is what got to me, Corinne. That is what changed it for me. You guys might remember Michael Pollan back in I don't know what year it was, but 2009. He brought out of the closet the whole factory farming conversation. And at that time, I was still eating animals. I'd go to Costco and buy a big bag of really cheap small chickens, right? And cook up some chickens in the oven, and it just was. It felt like it worked, right? It was perfect. It was not too expensive. It was a high protein source. It was delicious. Man, when you eat chicken, it just feels so calming, right? Because your endorphins and all of your dopamine levels go up. But is it kind? Is it healthy? Well, I certainly don't believe it's healthy anymore. The amount of saturated fat that's in chicken is really high, as well as the chickens that I was purchasing were probably terribly tortured before they actually had to come to their demise and find their way to my kitchen. I just couldn't continue to do that. And I didn't immediately change. When I immediately changed was when I came across Forks Over Knives. And there were actual doctors, real doctors who had science, real science, to support the fact that you don't have to eat animals. You do not have to eat animals. So if you choose to eat animals, that's your choice, but you're doing it for your own personal intentions. Twisted Hippie, you are like, am I preaching to the choir here? Put a 1 in the chat if you are vegan. Am I preaching to 19 vegans in the house? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we have 19 people in the house and only 16 likes. Slap a like on this video if you haven't already. Lincoln Clay says, off topic, Planet, do you agree that putting a cat on a plant-based diet is cruel and pathetic? They are carnivores. Yes. I don't think vegans put their cats on vegan diets. If they do, they don't know what they're doing. Cats need a certain, is it lysine? I don't know what the actual amino acid is, but if you put a cat on a strictly plant-based diet, you're injuring your cat. That's not vegan, ladies and gentlemen. So you got to feed, just because a cat eats animals, that's not a non-vegan thing. Don't get angry at a cat who eats an animal. It's an evolutionary creature that needs animals to eat. That's not a non-vegan thing. So the fact that a lion eats an animal in the wild, a gazelle, that's not non-vegan. A lion eats animals. Humans do not have to eat animals. If we have that good fortune, especially in the first world, of having access to some wonderful alternatives, healthier alternatives, then making that choice is easier. It's easy for me, so I choose to make it. Taurine, thank you, Kelly. Yeah, it's, and you know, it could be a bunch of other chemicals too, but make sure your cats get the proper diet. I think certain breeds of animals can go on a plant-based diet, but you should check that out. Talk with a veterinarian, get that information. Just like if you have a baby, you know, you want to make sure that your brand new precious baby gets high nutrition. I believe that a natural vegan just put a video out on babies and children that are brought up in a plant-based environment, a vegan environment, and she makes specific comments on the nutrition and whether they're getting adequate nutrition. She's very sensitive to that because she's recently had a baby, and she's been making a lot of content around that. So that's a nice extra angle, right, to the vegan diet. So make sure that you're kind-hearted to everyone, right? To your cats, your dogs, your children, yourself, everything. T-Tribby says, a natural vegans video scared me. Did it? I actually, sorry, you know what? I haven't watched that one yet. Can you give us a little bit of a 411 in the comments about that particular video? I like to believe that it wasn't a troll video, that she wasn't just trying to get views, but rather she was being thoughtful and trying to add value to the conversation. She is a fear monger sometimes. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, I think when people produce content on YouTube, if they want to fear monger a little bit, I'm okay with that, because this is, you know, please, you know, when you use something, use it with full IQ. When I use YouTube, I don't just use it for information, I also use it for entertainment. So I give every YouTuber, including vegan YouTubers, some license to perform a little entertainment on the side, right? So there needs to be a balance. If it's too much entertainment and not enough, you know, fairness, then that's not good. But a little fear mongering, a little bit of clickbait, a little bit of that is, I think it's within the platform. Some people don't like it at all, but I'm okay with it. Twisted Hippie gives her credit for, you know, a balance. I think she's good. If you listen to her videos, I always find that they're very thoughtful. She is very dispassionate. She doesn't scream and holler. She doesn't claim that people need to be, you know, I won't say it here, but in contrast to someone like Vegan Gains, right? Vegan Gains is really over the top, always has been. That's why we love it. Ellen Fisher's kids look great. Yeah, there are a lot of vegan kids. You know, kudos to people that are raising kids on a vegan diet and do it thoughtfully, especially when they're getting information from a doctor or someone who, like a naturopath or dietitian. Durian Ryder has 5 cats and he looks like he doesn't feed them properly. They are constantly starving and he gives them fries. Oh gosh, we have to talk about Durian Ryder, ladies and gentlemen. Durian Ryder has a new banana girl. Did you guys know that? This I found funny. This I found very, very funny. So you guys remember Freely the banana girl? It's not Freely anymore. It's not Freely. It's not Freely the banana girl. I thought I put a little, oh, Natasha it is, Natasha. So I thought this might come up. Natasha the banana girl, she's got 47,000 subscribers. She is the new Freely. If you go to her channel, Natasha the banana girl, she is a plant-based supporter, so I'll give her a little support through this video. Her name is Natasha the banana girl. If I slice this up and post it to my channel, I will link her channel in the description box of this video. But she is Harley's new girlfriend. She's gorgeous. She's beautiful. She's a beautiful girl, young girl. And much of what she's saying sounds exactly like good old Freely. I have to tell you, though, some of her diet advice is so 2014, you know. And I quote, she says, "The foods that I promote and I eat, they are completely self-limiting. There is no way you can eat too many bananas, too much pasta, too much rice. But there goes a switch." She says, "I'm full, no thanks." So what she's saying is that you can eat unlimited bananas, unlimited dates. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar to you, my friends? You can't eat too much pasta. Oh, gosh. You can't eat too much rice. That is not my experience. That is not my experience. Durian Rider knows how to pick them. Twisted Hippie recognizes she's cute for sure. Hate to comment on someone's looks, but she's a beautiful girl. And much of her 47,000 subscriber base probably comes from her thumbnails. Check out the thumbnails, guys. They're a lot like the thumbnails that were used in the early days that Harley was producing and using Freely, right? Freely's physicality. Natasha has a physicality that's being used and exploited. But when you listen to her video, she's another 20-something girl telling me that I can eat unlimited pasta. Oh. When are we going to learn, folks? When are we going to learn that that's a crock? I want to know from you guys in the chat. You let me know if you have a diet that allows you to eat unlimited rice and pasta. Put a 1 in the chat if you think you can get away with eating unlimited rice and pasta. I want to see you put a 1 if that's your experience. I want to talk to you. Can we guest on this thing? I'd love to guest some people. I don't think we can. Maybe he has a lot of money, so he's not developing. No, and Susanna, are you still here in the chat? If you are, I think you had said that, or maybe it wasn't you, Susanna. Someone said that Harley was no longer advocating raw till 4. Well, the label might have changed, but the messaging isn't different. The messaging isn't different. Moderation is key. Exactly. You got to watch what you eat, especially if you're over 30. I'm not advocating a diet. I don't think I follow a diet. I just try to eat healthy, right? Unlimited. Well, and let me give Natasha fair recommendation here. She does say that your body will automatically signal to you that you're full if you eat unlimited rice or unlimited pasta. That's not my experience. If I put rice in the cooker, especially white rice, oh, it doesn't last for long. I'll eat the whole thing. Like rice to me is like potato chips. Like I love it. I'm addicted to it. It is. There's an addictive quality to it. Lincoln says I eat a lot of pasta, but I don't eat it every single day. But I'm 21 and exercise daily. Yeah, Lincoln, you're 21. All right. Now, love you for being 21 and just revel in your 21-ness because it is a wonderful time of life that you will look back on fondly. But take it from your father figure here. When you in your 40s and 50s and 60s, you're going to find that unlimited pasta is a 21 thing. So I know that a lot of my viewers are over a certain age. And I will say that for those of you who don't have your 21-year-old metabolism any longer, eating unlimited amounts of pasta is probably not going to work for you. And that's really who I'm talking to. What happens is you get a lot of well-intentioned 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and up coming to the YouTube platform and taking their diet advice from people like Natasha, the banana girl. Well, Natasha's going to work for Lincoln, right? Lincoln can subscribe to Natasha. Natasha and Lincoln, you know, they can connect. Does Natasha represent Elizabeth? Does Natasha represent Susanna? Does Natasha represent me? Nope. No siree, Bob. And there's a place for Natasha, right? But there has to be a voice for those of us who realize that eating 3,000 calories of bananas is going to give us a Buddha belly. About to turn 40 soon, Elizabeth. Congratulations. That is amazing. 40, I loved 40. I won't be surprised if other changes occur. And they do. You have to be careful with what you eat. You do. Starches over fruit. Starches, it depends. I'm going to warn people about starches. If you do take on John McDougall's starch-based diet, be careful with food addiction. It's very easy to eat a lot of potatoes. And if you become a potato, right, if all you're eating are potatoes and rice, you may find you gain a little extra weight. He even recognizes that. So if you go on his diet, you might have to increase your consumption of green and yellow vegetables. That's what he recognizes. So be careful with that. If you gain a little weight, there's nothing wrong with you. You're healthy, but you do need to be careful. 40 was an amazing year for me too. Yeah, 40's 20. You know, 40 is young. 40 is young. For vegans, 40 is young. I can't imagine living off just fruit. I would be craving savory food all the time. Lincoln, I agree, and I think that that's another reason too that why we have all these people who claim that the vegan diet no longer serves them, because what they're doing is a lot of them are coming from raw diets, raw vegan diets. I think I tried raw vegan, you know, for a day. I mean, you know, what's the purpose of raw? Why not have a mixture of raw foods with cooked foods and put it together? It's like a perfect puzzle, right? There is a reason why we cook our food, and there's also a reason why we eat raw food. So there's a reason behind everything. I find there's a real purist, very idealistic intention behind raw veganism, in that people say, well, it's going to reduce the amount of vitamin C. Well, if you're on a vegan diet, you're getting plenty of vitamin C, my friend. So don't worry about vitamin C. If you're getting a green salad every day and you're eating a little bit of fruit, and you want to throw in some cooked vegetables, cooked broccoli, go for it. It'll even soften the fiber. It'll make the plant a little bit more digestible for you. Stephen L says he's pretty much raw. Right on. How long have you been raw, Stephen? And Slightly Vegan says, I started Starch Solution about the same time as High Carb Hannah and Potato Strong. I lost the same amount of weight as Hannah. Yeah, Starch Solution can work. And I did the Starch Solution too. I still enjoy starchy foods. I tend to eat them more in the winter when I put on a little extra winter weight. In the summer, though, I usually try to move toward more raw foods, and I'll combine that with higher protein, higher fat foods. I find that it helps me take off a little extra winter weight. I'm not talking about a lot of weight here. Aaron Zhang says, good morning. Good morning to you, Aaron. If it's the Aaron I'm thinking about, who I think I know. Julia, great, slightly. Yeah, good response to slightly. Mostly beans, rice, oats, vegetables, protein shakes. Yeah, those are good foods for sure. Race Lover says, wait till the next one. You ain't seen nothing yet. Let me come back to the chat. I think I missed some of your comments here. Curries and lots of greens. Yeah. I do agree with McDougall when he says starch is the basis of civilization. Yeah. John's pretty strong on that, eh? He lays it out, that he gives you the history. No matter whether you agree with John McDougall, he's a little funny. He's a little out there. But I admire people who are convicted to the cause, right? He practices what he preaches. Hey, Janie. I'm almost 4 years now, basically living on cruciferous veggies. Just cruciferous? That's hard to sustain. Kudos to you, Stephen L. Do you recognize that that would be hard for many people to sustain? Do you recognize that, Stephen? I think, we're talking two conversations here. We're talking about the plant-based diet. We're talking about veganism. And there's obviously plant-based dieting is largely in the vegan realm, but it's not 100%. Many raw foodists include animal foods. So raw veganism is still another slice of that. And then, of course, within veganism, some people could eat nothing but potato chips and Coca-Cola and claim to be vegan. So we want to make sure that we're careful here and not mixing our concepts. Julia says, if it wasn't for Dr. McDougall, I might not have lost weight. His message spoke to me, got me motivated and adherent. I love John McDougall. He is one of my heroes. I love John McDougall. I love Colin Campbell. I love Caldwell Esselstyn. I love Joel Fuhrman. I think some people, some comments were made in my video that I put up and some people were triggered by it. I apologize for that. I was never really to just, talk to the character of Joel Fuhrman. I think I said that a few times if you watch that live chat. It was strictly just to say, look, I agree with his diet advice, but I think his science is a little off. So, is it healthy to eat his diet? Of course it is. But is it fair for him to make promises? No. Nope. Don't promise. As a doctor, recommend. Here are some options. Try these out. And let's see what the results are. And those are, N=1 studies. Those are not studies that causal links can be based upon. If you don't believe me, guys, check out Dr. Kim Williams. He's the former president of the American College of Cardiology. And he recognizes that yeah, it's probably the case that eating things like seeds and nuts is healthy for you. And I believe he himself eats them. But the studies on seeds and nuts are still based on observations. They're observational studies. You cannot say causal statements based on observational studies. People who choose to eat more seeds and nuts probably also have other behaviors that can increase their health status. So be careful with that. Most people that have taken a first-year statistics course recognize that. So be honest, let's move forward honestly with full transparency. Nobody can take away the credit that Joel Fuhrman deserves for helping so many people, right? I mean, right on. But we have to be careful in regards to the science. He fumbled the ball back in 2004, 5, and 6. He was put on a little bit of a leash. Sorry, I characterize things in certain ways. I like to tell stories, and some people think of that as gossip. I don't think it's gossip. I did read all the information. Here was the information that I scooped up on it. I've got about 20 pages of information. On top of already the fact that I was following this stuff, I've always been a little bit of a nutrition geek. And I remember Joel Fuhrman back in the 90s when he was on the PBS circuit. He was actually a PBS star. and he was working with patients. He was helping patients. And I think that, Matthias, I'm going to block you just so you know. Just so you know. Okay? If you're in my chat, behave or I'm going to block you. You get one chance. So if it continues, you're blocked. Okay? There's sensible people in this chat who don't want children acting like stupid children. So behave yourself or you're out. Sorry, guys, for having to be so firm about that, but that's the way it goes. So you got to give Joel Fuhrman his credit. And, you know, I felt kind of bad for him. I don't know. Again, I asked this before for the people that are just joining the chat. Did anybody watch the video that was released on John McDougall's channel where he interviewed Joel Fuhrman? And I felt bad for him because I felt like he had his tail between his legs. He's been slapped around on the internet over the past, you know, several weeks. And, you know, I think he feels like his whole reputation has been unfairly tarnished. And I feel bad for that. I feel bad for him. I really like him. In fact, my own diet is probably more aligned with him than it is John McDougall and Caldwell Esselstyn. I personally don't have a heart problem, so I don't have to eat zero fat. They're not recommending zero fat, but you know what I'm talking about here. And so anyway, I felt a little badly for him. And I still like Joel Fuhrman. Put a 1 in the comment section if you like Joel Fuhrman. Look, people make mistakes, guys. Put aside the fact that, yeah, I think can we agree he probably made some poor choices back in the early 2000s when he was, you know, getting big? But 0.5, I love it. Slightly Vegan says 2. Don't hate on him. You know, this guy is an important member of the community, and let him have his issues with Campbell. Campbell's very vocal. Campbell has no time for Fuhrman. Esselstyn has no time for Fuhrman. You know, these are people you don't want to piss off because these are old school folks. These guys are in their 80s. Think about it. T. Colin Campbell was producing science, you know, back before we were even thought of. And the rules around science and publication and honesty and integrity were established. And if you make mistakes in science, someone like T. Colin Campbell is not going to have any time for you. He's just not, because he has this massive background of science contribution. He doesn't want his reputation tarnished. Joel Fuhrman isn't that important to him. He got caught. He's a fraud. I think he got caught, yeah. Is he a fraud? I'm going to let you say that. I'm not going to say that. I don't really think it matters. Because let's suppose that Joel Fuhrman was not intentionally misleading. Let's say he truly made all those mistakes. Really hard to believe, guys. This is a guy with a medical degree. I myself, before I was a teacher, worked in government for 10 years as a researcher with doctors. Those were the people that were asking me to help them with their data analysis, because my background is in math and economics. Can I just tell you right now, I have a decade of experience doing this with doctors. They ask questions. So they were fully aware of the data sets I was using. They had copies of the data sets. And when I came up with the number crunching, they asked me questions. Talk about the comparability. Talk about the representation. How did you work with the data set? What did you do? What were the rules? And most of the time they told me what the rules were. I just went and did it. So this notion that he had no knowledge of the data set, that he's completely and 100% arm's length from the data set, is at the very least sloppy and nothing respectful. You know, so this was given to him as an opportunity. You know, T. Colin Campbell notified him and said, look, you know, I see something here. Maybe you could help me spread the word on plant-based nutrition. And Joel Fuhrman had a good reputation, and he still does, largely. There's a lot of media hype. People like to jump on things, and they like to distort things. But let's just talk about it like it is. T. Colin Campbell is science. Think of the word, if you look up the word science in the text, in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of him. So if you go near science and you either don't care to look at your data set, it's unimportant to you, or you mess up the data set, either intentionally or whatever, T. Colin Campbell will divorce you. He'll ask for he'll get a divorce lawyer, and he'll have nothing good to say about you. That's just fact. It's a dispassionate fact. You like it or you don't, that's it. Done. He's an 85-year-old man. He don't have any time. If you're gonna cry about it, you know. But is what Joel Fuhrman is doing right now beneficial to a lot of people? Absolutely, yes. There are people that left. I'm not reading the chat right now. I should. But there's a lot of people who claim that they went on a Fuhrman diet, the G-Bombs, the Nutritarian diet, either fully vegan or partially vegan, and claim to have lost huge amounts of weight. So kudos to that. If it works for you, then that's good. Let me read some of this chat, guys. Holy cow, I've just gone off on a tangent here. Anyone from the UK? I thought of me long before I was born. Race Lover says, I don't respect people who use veganism to get rich. Do you think that's what he was doing? Do you think that was his intention? It could be. Scientific methods and procedures don't produce mistakes. Look, let me just talk about mistakes and a data set. I'm a teacher. When I teach about data analysis, the kids hear it from a firsthand, this was my former life. You don't make mistakes. I say it like it is. I say, if you make a mistake, you'll get fired. And so you should. You don't make a mistake. Now, typographical error, sure. But if 5% is reported as 7 or 8%, out. You got to go. You know, the iPhone has a calculator. Anybody can double check, triple check, quadruple check. So you don't make mistakes. Don't make mistakes. If you want to be a scientist or a statistician, you can't make mistakes in those regards. And if you do, you're gone. So you should be. You don't represent. You know what I'm saying? Make more live streams, Shane says. Yeah, I think I will. Do you guys want to live stream later on? I was thinking about maybe doing it. It's still relatively early in the day here. It's still morning in Vancouver. I was thinking of doing a Saturday night special. The timing is the factor, right? To try to get a time that works for people in Europe and North America, and also in Australia. We got people. Anybody in the house from Australia? Let me know. Race Lover asked for a 24-hour live stream. Oh my gosh. Shane asked that last time, and I told him absolutely not. Maybe I'll think about it. Do a 5-hour stream. Yeah, I can do a 5-hour. That would be kind of cool. Everyone leave a like. Yeah, like this up. I know that we have about 20 people in the house, 21 likes, but I think a lot of people have come and gone because I've been on for so long. So if you haven't left a like, slap a like on this video right now, please. Shane thinks that Plant Eats is awesome. Well, I appreciate that very much. Lois says, weight loss as a goal is a dangerous reason to be vegan. I could lose weight eating only bacon, for goodness sakes. Absolutely. It's not about diet. I think the conversation about diet, not vegan diets, but diets, has always sort of been focused on that, right? People go on the grapefruit diet. Like that's just silly stuff. Unless you can maintain that, you're going to gain all the weight back. Jeff Nelson spends quite a bit of time in his videos. I'm not sure what you guys think about Jeff Nelson. I personally like Jeff. I do. I said this in my last video. Would I make the same decisions that Jeff makes? No, but we're all different. We all make our own decisions. Every choice that we make has a set of consequences. John McDougall mentioned Jeff in his conversation with Joel Fuhrman a couple of days ago. Again, if you haven't checked out that video, make sure that you do. It's on John McDougall's website, his YouTube channel, and he mentions Jeff Nelson. And Jeff Nelson really making a focus on seeds and nuts, and goes a little deep. You know, he obviously has some things to say about Joel. Again, Joel's not the most dispassionate of doctors, which, again, if you're going to have a tennis match back and forth with comments with someone like Jeff Nelson, be careful. Jeff won't let it go, and nor should he necessarily. You know, it's his right. It's his YouTube channel. He's got a lot of supporters and that think exactly the same way he does. What movie will Plant Eats watch tonight? I don't know. I'm not really sure, Shane. I haven't thought about it. I think there's a Netflix show. It's escaping me now. I started watching it last night with my partner, who then had to go off to go to work. We stopped it. It's new to Netflix, and it's about some kids that in the space station. Did you guys see that? It's brand new on Netflix. If you know the name, put it in the chat. It's about some kids that have to. I only watched the first quarter, so I don't really know where it takes off. But they start off in camp. Rim of the World. That's it. Stephen L. Thank you so much. Rim of the World. I started it. It looks pretty good, so we're gonna finish watching that later on. After that, I don't really know. Green Book is amazing. I have to check that out, Twisted Hippie. Please sometime touch on vegan wine, beer versus non-vegan. I'm curious if most vegans factor that in. I would say, Lois, to that personally is I have looked up companies that focus mainly on vegan wine and beer. We have a number of them here in Vancouver, and they are on the list. And I have made effort to do that, but I will be the first to admit that sometimes if I see something in the wine and beer store that I want to pick up and I haven't researched, I'll still pick it up, look at it later. But I do find that it's just so you guys know, beer is vegan itself, but the apparatus and the filtering that they use can sometimes involve small amounts of animal products. I want to be careful here. I don't want to give the impression that people have to go that far with veganism. You can try to do that, but if you're just eliminating food products from your diet, you're not buying leather anymore, you're not wearing animals, then you're probably already 99.5% vegan, and that's super good. If you're a woman who wears cosmetics and you try to find products that have eliminated animal testing and animal products, that is excellent too. But again, don't, those are the marginal benefits that has on the animal kingdom are very, very small. So the biggest issue is just don't eat animal foods and don't buy leather. Leather is extremely cruel. Leather is cruel. It says the guy was sitting on a leather sofa, which was purchased before I went vegan. And I sit on this with as much respect as I possibly can offer. Will Plant Eats stay home all day? No, I will go out. I will go out, Shane. I live downtown, so it's so easy for me just to put a pair of shoes on, walk out the door, and I'm downtown Vancouver, just walking around downtown. You pay for it. It's expensive to live here, but it's pretty sweet. Is sea kelp a thing? Sea kelp. Yeah, sea kelp is a thing. Slightly vegan. What do you mean a thing? Or are you asking in response to what someone else had said? Are you voting tomorrow for the EU Hippie? Yeah, are you voting for the EU? I'd like to know about that too. Race lever, screen froze. Is the screen frozen? Is the screen frozen? Let me know in the comments if this, she might get along with Kay. According to my, no, screen is fine. Yeah, the screen looks fine to me. It could be just your computer. You got to upgrade your computer maybe. Says the guy who has the cheapest computer on the planet. I went to Costco and bought a $499 computer about 5 years ago, which I'm desperately waiting for it to break so I can justify buying a newer, better computer. This thing won't die. This thing will not die. It's a HP Basic, and if you like a good keyboard, don't buy this one. I mean, you are leaving the EU. It's my phone. Don't you dare insult my computer. I know. I take it back. I take it back. When last you went to cinema plants? Shane, you are really into staying home and going to the cinema. I have not been to the cinema for a while. I think the last time I went to the cinema was probably maybe 2 months ago. Maybe 2 months ago. I haven't watched Endgame yet. I do want to see that, and that's something that might happen this weekend. I always like to wait for those videos, or those movies to settle, and because the numbers at the beginning, I hate going in and it'd be jam-packed, so I like to wait a couple of weeks. I'm patient. Anybody following, I'm just curious to know, anybody following the keto vegan diet? And if you are, what kind of foods are you sort of emphasizing to achieve the keto vegan diet? People are farming sea kelp now. Do people eat it? Is it popular? I don't know. I always thought sea kelp was, at least in moderation, healthy to include in your diet. I know it's popular in Japan. You're probably talking about the farming element, right? And how it could have an environmental impact. I don't know if that's where you're coming from with regards to that, slightly vegan. Anybody in the chat follow Bonnie Rebecca? Bonnie Rebecca, who came out 4 months ago with a Why I'm No Longer Vegan. Anybody follow Bonnie Rebecca? She's a younger vegan YouTuber, and I suppose she's followed by very like-minded, very physical people, young girls, young vegan girls or vegan wannabe girls. People say no. She got a lot of attention when she stopped being vegan, although I will tell you that she seems to have retained a lot of support when she stopped being vegan. She got 1.3 million views on her video explaining why she was no longer vegan, and it got a 78% support from her subscribers. Au contraire, you got to hear this, guys. This is not good. Do you guys know who Ravana is? Ravana? Put a 1 in the chat if you know who Ravana is. Ravana. Ravana actually posted a video where she got about the same number of views, 1.1, explaining to her subscriber base that she's no longer vegan. Do you know what her support was from her subscribers? 17%. They were pissed. They were pissed. Now, she's been vegan for a while, Ravana, which is probably why people know her. People are indicating in the chat that they know who she is, Ravana. Ravana went vegan about 6 years ago. She went raw vegan, and she used veganism, according to her, which is what she explains in her video, to overcome addictions to alcohol and cigarettes. Now, the YouTube channel that she produced is a vegan channel, which is probably why she got 17% in her from her subscribers, 70%. That means that if I do the math, 100 minus 17 is 83%. So 83% of her subscribers that watch that, it's 1.1 million people, were pissed off at her. I believe for a while she continued to produce content as a vegan when she wasn't a vegan. And I think that people found that out and were really upset. I'm not sure I would rip her down for that. I think it's pretty hard if you've built a YouTube channel and an identity around veganism, and then you decide one day you're not going to be vegan, which probably plays out over weeks in your head, and you then stop being vegan, I can see why she probably didn't know what to do and how to explain that to her supporters. But to sort of misrepresent supporters through videos suggesting you're still vegan, I think there's a sort of a slimy element to that. But, you know, I think it's hard for people. I can't remember exactly. Oh, no, I do know. She claims that the reason why she stopped being vegan, this is about Ravana, and I'll post a link to her video where she explains why she's no longer vegan. The video that got 17% support from her subscribers explains that it was health reasons. So someone in the chat earlier had asked, you know, do I buy this idea that and the excuse that it's all about health reasons? I don't. No, I don't. I'm not going to speak about her. Maybe she specifically does. But I don't believe that scores and scores of people are having health problems because they're eating too much broccoli. No, I don't. I think if you have a well-planned vegan diet, you can thrive. I'm also suspicious of the raw veganism. I think a lot of people that are very extreme on a diet, you know, veganism is already perceived as an extreme choice. But when you go even further into the extreme realm on raw veganism, then swings, you know, that pendulum can swing. I think you want to stay as moderate as you can. But you do you, right? If you really want to go into the raw vegan realm, and I know some people in the chat have indicated that they do, then do it. Then do it. Do you do you. And, you know, look, give her credit. She was vegan for 6 years. I suspect that some of these things are related more to not health issues. Sometimes people perceive it as a health problem. Sometimes we have Goji Man in the chat. Goji Man, if you're in the chat, let me know. Goji Man actually talks a lot about this, right? People, I'm not going to use his vocabulary because he is educated on this. I'll use my own personal vocabulary, which is veganism feels different in the body. When you start eating lots of fibrous foods, it can sit differently in your body. It doesn't mean you're unhealthy. Just because you have gas doesn't mean you're healthy. It doesn't mean you're not healthy. That's not what it means at all. And playing with the types of foods that you're eating within your vegan diet can certainly alter those experiences. But I think her excuse of health reasons is sort of, it's not deeply explained in the video. So when someone doesn't deeply explain it, I'm often suspicious. That's just my own personal opinion. No offense to her. She's a nice girl. But again, you know, if your tummy starts to protrude and maybe you start not feeling as sexy in your body, then maybe you just think you can't eat that way. You think it's unhealthy and you change your mind. Slightly Vegan says there aren't any valid excuses for leaving veganism except for I wanted to eat meat. Can I say that I agree with you, Slightly Vegan, 90%. So I largely agree with that. But I always like to keep a sliver of situations where people could, you know, like I have a former roommate who lived with me here for a while, and she has colitis. And for people who have colitis, eating a high fibrous diet, I know there are people that have testimonials on YouTube who say that eating a vegan diet actually cured their colitis and their Crohn's diseases. But for her, if she ate broccoli, which she loved broccoli, I watched, I mean, she wanted to eat these foods, but it was just devastating to her. I mean, you know, and I'm not going to judge someone who is struggling with colitis. Not going to say anything, right? So, most people don't have colitis. Ravana did not say that she has colitis. She doesn't have an irritable bowel problem. She didn't say anything like that. She just said health reasons. If I'm wrong on that, if there was another video where she got deeper into it, please let me know in the chat. I don't want to misrepresent this girl. I did take the time to watch a 33-minute video. I'm not a follower of hers, so she could have other videos where she explained this. So if I'm missing something, please slap a comment and make sure that I'm held accountable for what I'm saying here. I don't want to misrepresent anybody. Race Lever says it can be more difficult for some than others, though. I think it's easier if you're older. I think older people tend to be a little more patient, a little more trial and error, a little less instant gratification. And the vegan diet does require some exploration. A plant-based diet requires exploration. And if you don't feel like you have the time, sometimes when you're 22, you feel like you're that angst. Summer's coming, you want to look good at the beach. Some of us are beyond that and don't worry about that any longer. But if that is something that you're striving toward, I can see why having a little bit of a Buddha belly would be a problem. And when you get a little bit of a Buddha belly, which is what a lot of us will experience when we go vegan, that scares the hell out of young girls, scares the hell out of gym rats who want to look a certain way. If you want to look a certain way, I don't mean just to say that your blood work looks good and you look good in your clothes, but you want to look good on Instagram and you want to have a 6-pack or an 8-pack, then maybe veganism isn't, or a plant-based diet is going to be a struggle for you. It could be. That could be honestly, I think that's what the motivation is. We just passed the 2-hour mark. If you've been with me for the full 2 hours, put a 1 in the chat right now, a 1 for those that are still with me from the beginning. If you've been with me for at least the last hour, put a 2 in the chat so I know you've been with me for the past 2 hours. I think Ravana did a water fast and lost her periods and blamed veganism. I'm not 100% sure though, Jutaro says. Yeah, I mean, a lot of vegans do play with water fasting, either intermittent water fasting or longer term water fastings. That could be perceived as vegan because you're not eating animals. But at some point, ladies and gentlemen, you have to start eating right. And when you do, the question is, what's that going to do to your body? How's that going to feel in your body? And Tim, also Timothy, you guys know who Timothy is, the former vegan. Timothy, our former leader in the vegan movement, stopped being vegan. And he had done a 40-day. Who was following his quest on his 40-day fast? If you were, let me know. Tim Sheaf, yeah, sorry, I forget names. I'm getting old, so my memory isn't as good as it used to be. Tim Sheaf. Oh, he was vegan for a long time and then left the community. Jutaro says he has been here for the past half hour. Right on, Jutaro. Jutaro, are you from Japan by chance? It looks like your name is potentially that. For the record, I always thought Tim was off. I didn't understand the appeal, just saying. Yeah, just to comment on that one, Annie, I myself have found him to be quite extreme. I don't want to say some of his practices. He's had some strange practices. You guys can put them in the comments. I'm not going to say it. You know what I'm talking about. Kind of disgusting. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anybody know? Flat Earth is one. I'll say that. That's fairly fine to say. There's another one. Jutaro's from the UK. Sorry, Jutaro. But anyway, he went on a 40-day fast. Oh man. And that was a medically unassisted fast, I believe. He wasn't in a facility being monitored by a doctor. That's extreme. He also does that amazing, what's it called? That sport where you're using you're working against your own body weight. Foot Soldier did a funny few videos on him. Yeah. I don't really like to focus in on, yeah, Stephen L., you said it. Stephen L. If you're wondering what I mean, you can read Stephen L's comment. He is saying it. Do I know Wacko Jacko? You know what? When I was actually prepping for this live stream and looking for information, I came across some Wacko Jacko videos. So I have to, I haven't. I think I watched one, but I don't have a feel for Wacko Jacko, but I'll give it a shot. I'll check that out on your recommendation. Yeah, parkour. Do you guys know what parkour is? And he's like amazing. You know, Tim Sheaf is amazing. Yeah. Oh, okay, so Wacko Jacko. Yeah, and when I was looking up information for this video, I came across Wacko Jacko in the searches. That's where I saw that. Jacko worshipped. Okay. So Wacko Jacko worshipped Tim Sheaf. Is that correct, Annie? I think that might have been his motivation for becoming vegan. So he probably, did Wacko Jacko leave veganism after Tim Sheaf did? Yeah. Look, I mean, if veganism is because you're someone you look up to has gone vegan, again, I gave credit to people like Freely and Harley for being influencers with respect to this. Susanna, who I think might have since left the chat, had said that she felt like a lot of people that had previously followed those people are no longer vegan. Because if you're doing it for other people, you're doing it because you want to look a certain way, then you're probably not going to sustain it. But yeah. Race Lover says, I went vegan because I looked down on milk. Wacko Jacko was starting to doubt he could raise his kid vegan, which is fair. Yeah. Yeah. Having kids is another level of responsibility, right? You can play the science experiment on your own body, but when it comes to children, you want to be a little extra. And so also too, I mentioned this in the chat previously, A Natural Vegan has recently put out a video on the nutrition element and making sure that kids get adequate nutrition on a vegan diet. You might want to check that out, especially if you have kids and you're thinking about feeding them a vegan diet. Tim started Into the Sun and did all kind of strange things and has many strange ideas. The one thing I like about Tim Sheaf, I have to say though, is that he is strange. There's no question. He will probably himself admit it. But that's what makes him very unique and entertaining. And he's got an artist's mind. He really goes with sort of whatever comes up in his mind. He's strong on personal belief. He does yoga. He's esoteric. So I actually really appreciate people like that. I don't beat up on people who say something like, there's not sufficient evidence that the world isn't flat, which is a claim he had made. I think he was half tongue-in-cheek when he said it. I think he was trying to say something other than that. Yeah, if you're in the chat and haven't left a like, please slap a like on this video right now. We got 27 likes. Put a like on this video. And Twisted Hippie gives credit to Freely, indicating that veganism is about ethics, and Freely recognized that. She said it. She still says it. She's got a good message. There's a lot of good to Freely the Banana Girl. I feel bad for Freely because now Freely has been replaced by Natasha the Banana Girl. But I don't think that replacement is 100 because while Freely probably still has 1 million subscribers or almost or a little over, Natasha the Banana Girl, you have a ways to go. You have a ways to go, girlfriend. You got 47,000 subscribers. So I don't know. Freely is a one of a kind. If you think Freely the Banana Girl is one of a kind, I don't mean to say you love her, like her, hate her, or whatever. If you think Freely the Banana Girl is one of a kind, slap a 1 in the chat. Tim is the reason basic logic should be taught in school. I know. I know. Look, I'm in the school system, so you're preaching to the choir. I just don't go hard on people that talk like that. I just don't. I don't take them. I guess because my brain automatically says this is so far fetched. They can't be. They can't truly believe this, and my brain automatically begins to try to analyze what they're really trying to say, right? And sad if in fact that's what they are saying. If it's as concrete as what they're saying, that's sad. It's a sad commentary on our public school system. But when he claims that veganism is damaging his health with the same kind of artistic logic, it's not good for the vegan community. And that's when the vegan community needs to say something. And that's, I mean, I don't post all the time, but I think 3 videos ago or 4 videos ago, I posted a video on my viewpoint of that. Again, it wasn't to gain subscribers. These are not popular videos to make. But I felt in my heart of hearts that anybody who has at least a little bit of a platform should say something. Just like Tim has the right to say that veganism isn't good for him, and I'm not sure how far he went with his statements. It's been a while since I watched those videos. All vegan content producers have the right to come back and state their views. That's what YouTube is. It's home broadcast. Vegan community said plenty, and they did, race lever. That they did, as I'm sure Tim knew was going to happen. Tim has a popular fan base. Like if you watch any videos that he's producing now as a non-vegan, he gets really high approval ratings on his videos, like over 90%. So I think a lot of his viewership wasn't strictly vegan, and they still love him. He's a lovable guy. There's a lot to him. He's complex. But yeah, I don't think he did the vegan cause any good. He might have been able to extricate himself from the vegan movement in a more thoughtful manner. That might be worth saying. I feel bad that some people bullied him. Yeah, there's no need to, what's the point in bullying? I mean, you put a bully video up, you post it, and then you have to sleep at night. Don't bully people. I mean, say how you feel and try to stay within the lines. I think the bullying thing comes from, I won't mention any names, but some people who are more on YouTube for a source of income. Some people are here to supplement their income or to just become a social media influencer. And we have some of those in our own vegan community. And they have to produce bully videos, or they have to have something extreme to say. That's what gets the views, right? Susanna recognizes Tim as gorgeous. He's a good-looking guy. Oh my God, Tim is amazing. I mean, he's popular. I can see myself having like so much in common with him. You know, we don't look the same way. We're not the same age, but I could sit down and drink beer with that guy and talk yoga. And I bet you we could have a conversation that lasts as long as this stream. We get along, and but we don't agree on everything, and that's okay. That's what makes the world go around, right? Race lover recognizes Sheath as a sexy dude. Yeah, he's a sexy guy for sure. Annie, I don't like bullying, but I also don't like when people refer to constructive criticism as bullying. I agree, Annie. That's true. I do find that, like, sometimes I'll make a video, like the last video I produced live stream and I just posted it. I was too lazy to edit it. So it went up as a 1-hour video. And I recognize that people aren't going to watch the entire 1 hour. I mean, people just don't have that time. And there were a couple of criticisms on the video saying that it was gossipy and, you know, look, I just think maybe my judgment's off. I could be alone on this one. Let me know in the chat where you fall. But if you have a YouTube channel and something timely and important comes up that affects veganism, and you have a vegan channel, I think your viewers probably want to hear from you on that. They want to know your opinion. And that's all that I think I'm doing, and that's what I think a lot of people who make videos does. It's an opinion. And if you're going to defame people, that's a different story. Sometimes people come close to it. I will be self-critical of my own choices in the past on YouTube. There are things that I used to produce that I wouldn't produce now. But you learn, you grow, you figure things out, and when you know better, you do better. Isn't that what Oprah Winfrey says? Or is that Maya Angelou? When you know better, you do better. And that's the thing. Some people get very fixated on their channel. So if you have a particular vegan YouTuber, I'll let you think of one that's big, and you've built your platform on extremism, you know, you sort of have to stay extreme, and that's tough. Anybody watch Trisha Paytas? Trisha Paytas, slap a 1 in the chat if you watch occasionally at least Trisha Paytas, or if you know who Trisha Paytas is. If you know her or watch her, put a 1 in the chat right now. I'd like to know. We can use Trisha Paytas as an example, because Trisha Paytas right now is going through an existential crisis on her channel. She doesn't want to be the same 22-year-old, you know, can I say bimbo blonde, which is sort of an image that she's projected. She's the first to admit that. She's not a bimbo. She's a very smart person, but she's presented herself in a certain way on her platform. And now she's trying to change. She's growing, right? As you grow, your brain grows, and you want to reflect your true self. And she's growing up, and she knows that her videos aren't going to have the same appeal because they're not as extreme. She doesn't want to be as extreme anymore. But that's hard to extricate yourself from when you're monetized on YouTube. And we have certain people in the YouTube community, vegan YouTube community, who are in that category. If you know anybody in that category, may I ask you to state the name of the channel? State the name of the channel who you think falls into the Trisha Paytas camp, whereby they can't really evolve out of their childish ways. T-Tribby says, Plant wants data on his audience. Annie says, Durian Rider. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of him because I don't see him as necessarily a mover and a shaker in the vegan YouTube community any longer. I know some of his videos go large, but most of his videos, you know, there was a time when my videos were actually doing better than his. Susanna says, I'll say his real name, Nikocado Avocado. I watched Nikocado Avocado's latest video where he compares, should I say this? I'm not sure if I should admit this in this chat. You guys might chastise me in the chat. But I watched Nikocado Avocado's video that he produced yesterday comparing the Big Mac to the new Whopper. I can't remember which, it's the Hot Whopper or whatever it is. And I watched most of it. I'm embarrassed to say. But the guy has that sort of slice of YouTube down. He has it nailed. He has it nailed. Todd says VP. Who is VP? Vegan something? Annie recognizes that it's impossible to watch Nick these days. He makes me ill. He does make me ill, Annie. He does. But I have a soft spot for the poor little guy, because when I was watching YouTube Vegan a long time ago, before I even had my own YouTube channel, I watched him, and I can't say no, I'm not going to say that. I can't say I was a staunch supporter of Nick, but he caught my attention. There's always been something about Nikocado Avocado. Most people on YouTube, if they stick around long enough, and they have a sort of connection with their subscriber base, there's a quality to them. And Nikocado has that particular quality. And he's messy. Of course he's messy. But the way in fact, I don't want to force you to do anything you don't want to do, but I will encourage you to watch the video. It's on his Nikocado Avocado 2 channel. He's got 2 channels where he compares the Whopper to the Big Mac. He's got the French fries, and he's also got the chicken nuggets in the video. If you could just watch 2 or 3 minutes of that, the way he's framed it, the way he interacts, the things he says, the way he eats, you know, let me know if I'm alone on this one, but the guy knows what he's doing. He's doing it well. You may not like the style of video, but he's doing it well. I still watch Martin. Yeah, I watch Martin too. I like Martin. Martin's still vegan. Did you guys know that? I was watching a live stream of Martin, and I asked him, I said, Martin, are you still vegan? He said, yeah. So he is still vegan. And he recognizes Martin as smart. Don't underestimate Nikocado Avocado. I will say this about Nikocado Avocado. You have to give credit where credit is due. The man is a beautiful musician. He's just a beautiful musician. And if you're an art person, I don't mean to say you produce art, but you just have an appreciation for an artistic mind, an artistic soul. Nikocado has an artistic soul, right? And he's just, I don't know. I said this before in my last video. I personally think that Nikocado Avocado is actually a closet vegan when he's not making his Big Mac videos. And I think he and Orlin are eating nothing but fruit and water fasting between those videos. Because even though we know Nikocado Avocado is, you know, put a little on, when you look at what he's eating and the frequency in which he's eating it, he would probably be double that weight if he's also eating that while not on YouTube. I think anything that he eats that's in the McDonald's realm or any of these fast food places is because sorry, a video, someone is saying, 00 says, oh my God, you are pretentious. Right on. Why? Because of my comments about Nikocado Avocado? What kind of videos are you going to make in the near future? I don't know. I may just start doing regular live streaming, and maybe what I can do. The problem right now, guys, is that I'm doing a lot of yoga and I'm teaching yoga, and it's taking a lot of my extra time. And I still want to stay connected to this platform. But the problem with YouTube is that if you don't continuously, regularly produce videos, you do lose your subscriber base. People forget about you. YouTube will stop recommending your videos and the whole thing. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but YouTube should be something where you're more regularly committed to. So something that I can sort of keep balanced is the live streaming. And then maybe what I could do is take the live streams, produce some internal videos, take 5 minutes of your time to just listen to me. And then I could cut that and release that as an actual video to the channel. And then maybe put live streams in a separate section of the channel. I don't know. But I'm not going to leave the channel. Whether I produce videos every few months or every few minutes, I'm going to stay on YouTube. I love the Plain Eats YouTube channel. The Plain Eats YouTube channel is something that I, used to be more serious about. I made videos. I spent hours and hours doing something I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not technically inclined. So when you look at any of my old videos, which used to get a lot of, I'll give credit to myself where credit is due, I think. I used to spend a lot of time editing them and putting in nice intros and food segments and all that stuff. Slap a 1 in the chat if you have watched my past videos where the food segments, remember the food segments? Not everybody liked the food segments, but some people liked the food segments. Did you like the food segments and the Vancouver intros on my past videos? Slap a 1 in the chat right now if you liked that. That took a lot of time, right? You have to take your camera, go out, collect. Now it's a labor of love. I'm not putting it down, but it does take time. Then you have to cut up the stuff, and then the food. So I was embedding videos within videos. So when you put a food segment together, and I wanted it a certain way, right? Like I didn't want to just have you watch 20 minutes while I make something. I would literally be thoughtful about where I angled the camera, how I cut it, the time in between the cuts, and that took a lot of time. Susanna says, I love the food segments. Yeah, it was fun. Health Enthusiast says, 1 recognizes that those were fun videos to make. So the Plain Eats YouTube channel is not going to go anywhere. Some people probably would love to see the channel deleted, I know. But I'm not. No, I mean, there's a couple hundred videos on the channel. 8 or 9,000 people have subscribed, and you know, maybe a small percentage of that 9,000 people still regularly watch any upload I put on, which I totally appreciate all the help. It's probably the people that are in this chat right now. And I just love it. It's awesome. Awesome. YouTube is awesome. It's fun, and it's so cool. Your analysis referring of the why VC is your strong suit. Yeah, Slightly Vegan recognizes my analysis of the vegan YouTube community, because that's really where my channel came from. My channel sort of grew out of the 2015, 2016 era, when there was people like Joe Vegan and Freely and Harley and the Raw Till 4. Also, we had Charles Marlowe, the vegan, formerly known as the Vegan Cheetah, and those were really fun times. And I think a lot of people started YouTube channels because of that. A lot of those people aren't on the platform any longer, and that's cool. I'm first to recognize how much work goes into keeping your channel up and going. And but yeah, it was always fun to do that. I did it seriously, but not seriously. I hope that you guys appreciate the fact that it was serious, but not serious at the same time. Slightly Vegan says Joe best. Yeah, love Joe. I always liked Joe. Like Joe. I went vegan in 2016, so by then I knew it was bad to eat 30 bananas a day. Can I just say I never thought it was good to eat 30 bananas a day? It just always defied logic in my head. Always, always. Also, too, and I don't want to go back, you know, we don't need a history lesson here unless you guys want to have a history lesson. But the Raw Till 4 movement was always a joke to me, because it was strictly all that Freely and Harley were doing was they were resurrecting the past. In the 1980s, there was a book released called Fit for Life. And if you're as old as I am, you remember it. It was put out by Harvey Diamond. Harvey and I forget his wife's name. If you know her name, you can put it in the chat. And it was basically eating nothing but fruit until noon, and then after that it was a vegan diet. But they were careful in the 80s because veganism wasn't really well known, so they were tolerating eating some animal products. But it was all that Freely and Harley did was they scaled it to a vegan YouTube community, and they did well. They did well for that. They got lots of monetization out of that. Kelly J asks, how is Vegan Lass doing these days too? Remember Vegan Lass? Oh my gosh, yeah. Now she was not, it went to Vegan Lass. What was her name before that? Shit. She's from the UK. What was her name? Maybe it was the Vegan Lass. Yeah, it was the Vegan Lass. That's what it was. Maryland, yes, Harvey and Maryland. Point goes to Kelly J. That's awesome. Or Kelly J. I was right. Lauren, yeah, I loved her because do you remember her videos that she would put together against Harley? She went vicious on Harley. Like, talk about have an opinion on Harley. Yeah, Lauren. She's a sweet girl. Sweet girl. And I don't think she produces. Does anybody know if her channel is still up and if she's producing? Lauren McKenzie, yeah. Sweet girl. She spoke from the heart. Ooh, did she speak from the heart? She didn't hold back. And that was the day when you could drop the F-bombs and get away with it. I think every sentence she came out of her mouth had the F-bomb in it. She didn't hold back. I'm sure that when Harley watched her videos, he was having a good laugh. He was having a good laugh. I liked her. She's hard to understand, though. She's got that thick accent. Where's she from? Ireland? Scotland? Where is she from? I can't remember the country that she's from. Scotland. She's Scottish. She actually put together a video. This was after the Vegan Cheetah's channel had been deleted. Do you guys remember that in 2016? And she put together a video and she asked a bunch of people that were making YouTube videos at the time. That was including me. My channel was like probably I only had 500 subscribers. And she asked me to put together a short clip. And I remember at the time I was so thrilled because I thought, my God, someone actually knows my channel. That's so cool. She's from Glasgow. Yeah, I always need a translator for Scottish channels. Lauren, I think, had an eating disorder, a pretty serious one. And I believe that she had to go into treatment. And her doctors were simply not okay with her following a vegan diet. So I think the doctors were telling her no. I seem to remember that. I seem to remember her saying that in her videos. Whether she is or not now, I don't know. I'd love to hear from her, though. I think she's a sweet person. Plant, you have been tracking stats on ex-vegans to ex-vegans. Not. I like to stay up. You know what I'm saying? I like to stay up on it. I'm not writing anybody's name down if that's what you're getting at, but yeah, I keep track. I'm a little bit of a vegan YouTube geek. I mean, I've been here for a long time, and even though I'm not posting videos, I'm still watching. I'm still watching, and some of you will probably see me in the comment section too. When you leave your comments, I'm right there with you. We're brothers and sisters in all of this. If you know what I'm saying, Plant, you have you. Oh, sorry, you're probably talking about this stuff here, right? This stuff here I put together mainly for these videos. So I do try to prep even for a live stream. If I'm going to do a live stream, I like to have something at least to engage you guys with and know something about. So that's for that. But usually it's just to reclaim information that I might have already missed. I try to watch everybody's channels. I try to support everybody. I try to subscribe to all the vegan YouTube channels, even though I don't necessarily 100% agree with them. I'm still subscribed to Nikocado Avocado's YouTube channel because I still believe in my heart of hearts. Nikocado Avocado, come on back. Come on back, brother. I still think he's going to come back. Twisted Hippie, have I subscribed to you? I think I did. Yeah, I did. That was a long time ago. I probably would have subscribed to you, I would say probably 18 months ago is what I'm thinking. I remember pushing your sub button. That sounds kind of kinky, doesn't it? I know your numbers minded. Oh, I see. Yeah, I am. You guys may not know this, but I'm actually a math person. I am a math person. I think math all day. It's all about the math. Thoughts on unfit shorty eats? Raf952 asks, not enough to say anything here and now, but I will put some information together. The information that I would share would be not enough to really sort of warrant a good reply to that. Let me read some of your comments. Some of the ex-vegans freak me out, especially when they start talking about physical deterioration or women losing periods or not being able to get pregnant. Susanna, I think that when it comes to the menstruation thing, did I say that word right? I have a feeling that has more to do with one, not eating enough calories, and number two, not having a diverse diet. So maybe the person is really cutting things up. And I hate to use the word raw vegan in a negative light here because we probably have some raw vegans in the house and love you guys, raw vegans. But I think you have to be careful if all you're eating is primarily fruit, and there are fruitarians. I don't know. There's no science, people, on the nutrition of eating all fruit. If you do it, you do it. You do you. But I can see how that could lead to issues. And someone like Ravana, I think she was raw vegan for a while. She could have been just eating fruit. It's possible. And that can happen. Infinite Waters, love the guy. Oh my God. Come on. Come on. Yeah, and extremely low fat. Can I give you my own personal experience? I'm not recommending, okay? But if you are looking to lose a little bit of your winter weight, if you're a vegan, I'm gonna suggest that you try eating more green vegetables with tofu and tempeh and avocado and seeds and nuts, and probably move a little bit away from potatoes, rice, and pasta, and even beans. Take the beans that you're eating and eat half of them, and replace the rest with tempeh. Season up your tempeh. Those foods tend to be higher in protein and fat and a little bit lower in carbohydrates. The carbohydrates, guys, on a vegan diet, if you're not really mindful of what you're eating, can just soar. I mean, soar through the roof. So, and this notion that you can't gain weight on high carb diets is not my experience. It is not my experience. So anyway, Ravana ate very low calories. You have to make sure that you eat enough. That's not a vegan issue, right? If you're not eating enough calories, it's not good. It's not good, my friends. During Ryder and Freely were vegan Camelot until certain YouTubers destroyed the whole thing. Well, you know what? How do I put it? During Ryder and Freely, in my humble opinion, if what they were promoting worked, they would still be Camelot. And when you have all of your supporters, your little kingdom and queendoms, making videos, all these young girls started putting together little YouTube channels that became quite big and actually bigger than theirs. Or leaving comments in the comment section saying that they're gaining weight and cellulite or cellulite or whatever the word is forming on their very young bodies, which is not terribly normal. I suppose some young people can get it, but if you remember High Carb Hannah, she put a video together. She's still young. She's still a girl. And at that time, she was very young and she was gaining a ton of weight and getting cellulite. I'm just telling you what she reported. She used those words. I'm not basing that on pictures or photographs, but just simply reporting to you what she was reporting in her videos. Based on the raw to four diet, you got yourself an issue. But think about it. Imagine someone who's never gone to school to study any of this, asks you to go out and buy a blender and put up 10 million bananas in it and dates, and then put sugar in it and drink that for breakfast. It's just so, come on. So many issues there. There's some really good vegan doctors that talk about this. Dr. Michael Clapper. Is it Michael Clapper? I always get their names mixed up. Is it Michael Clapper? Let me just look up. Michael Clapper. Yeah, it's Michael. I got it right. Michael Clapper. He actually talks a little bit about the way you should be consuming your food. Doesn't matter if you're a vegan or you're not a vegan. You should be chewing your food. Food is meant to be chewed. And that's the beginning of the digestive process. I'm not a doctor, but it's kind of makes sense to me. And I remember when I was in grade 4, we did in health class, we took nutrition. And I remember the teacher saying that digestion begins in the nose, right? As soon as you start smelling the food, you begin to salivate, chemicals are released. You put the food in your mouth, you start chewing on it, and you got to keep it in your mouth for a while so that a lot of those digestive chemicals will begin to break down the food. And if you're just drinking 3,000 calories or 1,000 calories and it's just bypassing your mouth, then no doubt that people are getting indigestion. Chew your food. And also too, food is one of the few pleasures of life. So if you're just going to drink your food all day, how long can that be sustained? Not for very long, in my opinion. Andreas Raffe recognizes that olives are the bomb. I agree, Andreas. I eat olives every day, especially if you're moving toward a more keto. I'm not keto in the sense that I'm like anal retentive with it, but the keto diet is a really good sort of principle to follow, which is that you're moving into food choices that are higher in fat and protein and a little bit lower in carbs. Now, remember, if you're a vegan or plant-based, you're going to be getting plenty of carbs. You can't help it. You can't move without eating carbs. So moving into those realms can help you with that. And olives are tolerated on a keto diet. At least I believe they are. Let me know in the chat if I am off on that one. Susanna says, haven't watched in a while, but don't think so. Vasectomy, I got to read these before I say them. Yeah, the Kalamata olives are my favorite as well, Kelly. Those are my favorite. And I really, one of the, I think, reasons why it's easier for some of us to maintain a plant-based diet is that we really like carby and foods that are on the saltier side, or you can salt them. And if you are like that, then a vegan or plant-based diet is pretty easy to maintain. Tahini is gross, Susanna says. Olive oil she loves, and she loves olives. Nice, nice, I agree. We are among friends here, I can tell. Let me come back because I was ignoring your chat for a while. Let me see if I can reply to some of you guys. Unnatural Vegan dropped the word deterioration in her video today about vegan kids. T-Trivia, I suppose that you're alluding to the word deterioration and sort of fear-mongering, which is, I think, what was mentioned earlier. Yeah, I allow, personally, in my own sensibility, 10% on any video I watch on YouTube for sensationalism and clickbaiting and fear-mongering. I know that some of that is just to ask people to come back for the next video. I get that. But I think she balances some of that fear-mongering with some pretty good information and thoughtfulness, which, for me, keeps me subscribed to her channel. But again, no diss. Annie, I don't want to lose my period, so plant fats are a must. So plant fats are recommended by Susanna, who says that by dropping too many fats in your diet can lead to changes in your menstruation cycle. What would life be without oats? I love carbs too. Andreas, I agree. I myself tend to get a little addicted to oats. For me, if I've got a bunch of oats in a jar in my cupboard, it's easy for me just to keep going back. I eat oats. I eat raw oats. I know it's weird. Raw oats like potato chips. And they're pretty carby. They're pretty starchy. And for me, they can sort of get a little addicting. So that's just my own personal experience. I fry my tofu in oil. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to have some tofu and you want to fry it up, why not? I think that's very diplomatic. Plenties. Yeah, I'm a diplomat. Right? I'm a diplomatic kind of guy, I think. But, according to some people, I'm pretentious. I haven't eaten oatmeal in a while. I love it, though. I haven't either, Susanna. I'm trying to move away a little bit from the carbs. Carbs, as they say, like a East Coaster in Canada. I've moved away from the carbohydrates, but I do love the oats. Low carb makes me feel a bit more mentally stable. Have you noticed that? Yes. Isn't that interesting that you would say that? Now, I always feel mentally stable. Actually, I'll tell you when I don't feel mentally stable. And I don't mean to say, like I'm losing my mind. Or maybe I will say that. Those days when you feel like you're jittery and you don't feel comfortable around people, you don't feel good in your own skin, you just want to go home and hide from the world. Those days, let me describe those days for me. I would say those are days, if I'm not eating enough, I will feel that way. I used to feel that a lot more before I went vegan. I would report to you that once I went vegan, I stopped feeling that way. And now I've had it occasionally, but maybe 1,000th the incidence of before I went vegan. My association there would be probably that when you're eating a lot of carbohydrate, I personally think there's an association between eating carbohydrate and mental health. I think eating more carbohydrates will make you feel more mentally buoyant. That's my own personal experience. And so it could be that as well. Although I will, in response to what you just said, say that recently when I started eating more tempeh tofu and some, green vegetables, more fat and protein, I started feeling mentally stronger. There could be other reasons for that too, because I'm getting a little deeper into my yoga practice, and I think that can also mentally get you supported. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Oh my gosh, T Tribby, you should be running this live stream right now. T Tribby says fat and protein is grounding. Oh, it's such a yoga thing to say. Yoga is grounding, and I think that fat and protein is also grounding too. That's been my experience too. I don't know if you guys can support that point. I think greens have a lot to do with it, how one feels on certain diets. I've been vegan for almost 7 years right now, and I would say that 98% of every day since I went vegan, yeah, I agree too. Well, guys, we've reached the 2-hour, 47-minute mark, and I am all talked out. But I appreciate you guys for spending the last little while with me on this live chat. And I think I might return later on tonight. I might do a Saturday night special. So if you get the notification and you have the time and inclination, join me at that time. And I don't know if I'm going to use this for an upload. I might, but if I do, I'll just say into the camera right here and now. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the Planets YouTube channel. The links to my socials are down in the description box. And I look forward to seeing you all back here in a few days' time for another super fresh video. And for the last few people that are still in the chat, love you guys all to hell. And I'll probably talk to you later on in the day. Is that, how do you do a heart? Love you guys. Out.